A BB Fahodie family. Shout out to the production.
Rick, and Thaddeus on the beat.
But most definitely, shout out to the ancestors who got me going on my way this morning. By way of the Creator. Woke up reading my daily affirmation from Wise Words written by Walimu Baruti. Anyway, and time is precious. I don't want to waste your time. When you leave Earth, you can travel for decades and you won't see a man, a woman, a child, a plant, an animal. None of the things that we take for granted. Well, let's get into some ancestral wisdom. Where there are experts, there will be no lack of learners. Swahili proverb. I'm gonna say that one more time. Where there are experts, there will be no lack of learners. Swahili proverb. Did it say where there are men, there will be no lack of learners? Did it say where there are rich people, there will be no lack of learners? No. It said where there are experts. Did it say where there are Urugus or Eurasians? No, it didn't say that. Experts. However, in Western society, in the society that we've been prisoners of war inside of, experts are frowned upon unless they have come from a certain class, a certain gender, a certain race. But in the Swahili proverb, it just said experts. And when it says experts, it's not being sexist, racist. Well, there are experts. So we've been in a society that hasn't placed experts to the forefront. Just imagine how Western society, driven by racism, not by experts, has been held back from medical advancements, space advancements. I mean, even some of the most minute things, such as sports. Just look at sports. The end zone dance, the alley-oop, the crossover, the language, or should I say lingo, that developed organically from a group of people who were being oppressed and told they couldn't play this particular sport. Not only did they develop moves and skills that the originator probably never imagined, they created language and jargon that people would never imagine. You know, breaking your ankles with the crossover. And they're just the little subtle things that we brought to the table that's underestimated on how important they are to the sport. And again, these people forced their way in. Same thing on the technology level. Anything that we've really done, it was done through force. In the medical area, anything done, I mean, you can even say in today's age, because we're 500 years behind, minimum. They have us centuries behind because for centuries we were told we couldn't think, we couldn't read, we can't build infrastructure, we couldn't do so much for ourselves. That in itself is holding humanity back. To have a group of people not think for themselves. And then when you see that once they are able to think for themselves, they create monumentous great things. And when you peel back the layer even further, you were like, whoa, they were creating this while being told they couldn't go to the schools and they had to be hidden figures and all of these things, and yet they made great accomplishments. So when you're looking at space and outer space accomplishments, we have to remember that it's being held back. And it's not because of money. And it's not because a lack of experts. It's because the group in charge, or the dominant society, does not seek experts. Now they're pretending to do it, but even now you look at certain boards and they're not as diverse as what we think diversity is. And they're not getting the best of the best minds. As long as 17-year-old black children are being gunned down by white or black people, 12-year-old black children are being miseducated, 15-year-old black girls are being told that they're not beautiful subconsciously through media programming. All of the women that they have them looking at are self-hating but arrogant at the same time. As long as that is happening, you'll never reach Alpha Centauri. You'll never do none of the things that we could do if we weren't being intentionally held back by a group of people who don't seek experts, from a group of people who put puppet presidents and neo-colonial governments in place. This is what they do. They don't seek intelligence. Intelligence is a threat to capitalism. So, while they're threatened by true intelligence, they masquerade around, sashay around as if they are intelligent. Because they have a majority of people that have went to their miseducation institutions who have been dumbed down intellectually, spiritually, and culturally. So they have attacked you. You've been attacked from all angles. And you look at the most evilest people known to man. I mean, we really don't have too much more to compare them to. And we look towards them for guidance, spiritual guidance, cultural guidance, economic security, farming techniques, and farming in general, distribution of our food. We depend on them for everything, and we see how much they pollute the land, the water, the air, and they're also polluting outer space. Every time they launch one of their nuclear rockets designed by one of their genius nuclear physicists, they're releasing dangerous particles out into the atmosphere. And the more that they do it, the more space debris. And they're going to downplay it. They're going to act as if whatever they're doing isn't as bad as what they're doing. And who knows? Who knows who they're holding back? Who they held back? I mean, even amongst their own circles, they've somewhat held back their own women from becoming more intelligent. Now, they may have had them protected, but again, their society and Western society isn't structured off of experts. And that's why we have a lack of learners. We have a lack of culture. We have a lack of empathy. We have a lack of spirituality. It's so much lack of because we have a lack of experts. And our ancestors knew exactly what they were talking about when they pieced together that ancestral wisdom. Now, if we look at just, we talk about the space debris. Now, they're definitely trashing the space, and this is done by their experts. Again, it's driven by Yurugu male influence. Thought. Now, you may have women coming on board. Doesn't matter the race at that point. They will be coming on board, but at the end of the day, they're going to follow Yurugu male influence. The majority of the space funding coming from Yorugu males. Now, that doesn't mean that other people aren't putting in the bucks, but when you hear about space outside of NASA, the biggest name that I can think of is Elon Musk. That's a male. Yorugu. So we have to look at what's going on before us and who these people are at heart. And doing this isn't racist. For one, I can't be racist. Me speaking my truth isn't racism. A rape victim speaking her experience isn't being sexist or chauvinist or something of the sort. It's the truth. Now, when you start being biased and saying, oh, every person is a rapist, every man is a rapist, every woman is a child molester, if you start saying certain things of the sort, then yes, that's not logical thinking. But we're looking at historical collective truths. And historically, these people have built colonies on land that does not belong to them. We fast forward to 2020. The space race is basically all about a generation of future children compared to their ancestors who want to colonize Mars, who want to build colonies on Mars. Okay, that's not being biased when you're connecting the dots. When we look at the trash, when I was just talking about the trash, they have polluted the ocean, they have polluted the air, they have polluted the land, and now they have polluted space. So when you look at these things, these common denominators, it's a certain type of mentality that they have. Again, even the way that they engage with space. Me personally, I do feel that Africans should be more involved in the space race. Non-black people are leading the race. So that means that we should be at least in the race. I don't even think we're in it. They're leading it and we're not even in it. They're leading it amongst each other. It's a Eurasian thing right now. But it should be something that we take more heavily. We shouldn't take it so lightly. I mean, we should be casting satellites and looking out into the cosmos. I mean, there's planets out there that got liquid diamonds, and we got all of these ballers out here. You would think they'll be trying to trap that, at least for some capitalistic gains. Not to say that I agree with that type of exploitation, but are we trying to win? Or are we comfortable with being the white man's bottom? Huh? Now, let me rephrase that, because that could be taken to something else these days. We don't want to be the white man's bottom girl. And that's some pimp terminology. We must do for self. If we're out here turning all of these maneuvers, you know what I'm saying? We must be maneuvering for ourselves. So we got to look at our ancestors, because that's the best way to get rooted. Is to go on back home. And if we look at what some of our ancestors have done previously, let's just go to Granville T. Woods, master inventor. I mean, he basically created a traffic control for trains. And he was born in a time to where he had to fight to be whatever he needed to be. So he could have been greater. Just, we're LeBrons. We are Kobe's. We are Jordans in whatever we do. if we're in those areas of physics to where innovation happens, we will be Jordan. We will be Kobe. We will be LeBron. Right there. But we're too comfortable letting grown men lead us as if we aren't grown men. I mean, just look at this. I mean, there was a brother named Elijah McCoy. He was born in 1843 to parents who had escaped slavery. McCoy then was sent to Scotland to go to school. He returned to America for no reason. He should have went somewhere else, but I guess he had no choice at the time. He returned to America, well educated. He was a master mechanic and an engineer. But do you think in a society that doesn't promote experts that they gave a rat's behind about Elijah McCoy's master mechanic and engineering skills? Heck no. No matter how educated he was, his opportunities were limited. And it wasn't because it was a recession. It wasn't because jobs were not around. It wasn't because there was no industrial revolution. It was because white males did not care about experts. They cared about only white males. So this master mechanic and engineer was given a job to just walk alongside the trains, oiling moving parts. A greaser. A oiler, man. Basically, he was walking around rubbing shea butter on the trains. With all of these skills, all of this know-how, all of this knowledge, only thing they needed him to do was shea butter Twitter the train. Come on now. This is who we're dealing with. But he didn't let it get him down because he didn't have trap music and all of these other things that promoted death to hold him down in his spirit. So while he was oiling those moving parts, he invented an automatic oil cup which lubricated the trains. He was like, yo, you don't need a man to do this job. And from this, you know, you had a lot of people trying to make the knockoff automatic oil cup, but none of them worked like Elijah McCoy's, which led to the term of the real McCoy. And this was done by someone who was forced to be ignorant, so to speak. I don't want to say he was forced to be ignorant because he was a genius, but he was forced to be subservient, to be in a lesser than role, and even in that he invented. You get the term the real McCoy from a black man, because we are the real McCoys. Black women too. When we allowed to be in those positions, or when there is no barriers that we gotta waste time breaking down, we can get what's necessary done. We can come up with those miscalculations that Yurugu has been miscalculating over the past umpteenth amount of decades and possibly centuries, because they have forced us to be ignorant. We could have possibly traveled at light speeds already if we didn't have to deal with people forcing us to be ignorant, forced miseducation, and living in a society that does not promote experts. And that's why we have a lack of learners, an abundance of prisoners, an abundance of poverty, an abundance of homelessness, hopelessness, blind voters. All of these things is because this society does not promote experts. as long as this society does not promote experts, don't expect to go into the cosmos or anything of the sort. Got a little worked up. However, in closing, we must not get caught up on how great the world would be without Yurugu-driven racism. We also don't want to ignore how intellectually great we still have been under racism. The advancements we have made in the face of relentless as well as unnecessary adversity can show how great we could truly be in a society that encourages expertise. In a society that encourages racism, black inferiority, as well as black death, so many of us choose to eat to live, to seek Ma'at, to Sankofa, to learn to read, even if it meant death, to invent, even if the credit wasn't properly given. We advance sports in unimaginable ways as well. And it's time for us to take this approach to space travel and the necessary advancements needed in physics as well as in character development. A BB Fahodie family. We'll check you on the next one. Warriors over Weasels.